Bueno, muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar, Managing Airport Safety During Construction Works. This is the last webinar for the year, and we thank everyone for your time and for your participation throughout all the webinars, 25 webinars or so we've done during the year once the pandemic started. On this occasion, as I said before, we will know best practices and how airports in other parts of the world have managed operational safety at their airports during construction works. For this, we will have the participation of Carlos Menendez, Grupo Aeropuerto Pacífico, who's also the President of Operational Safety of ACI-LAC. He will provide welcome words. Then we have the participation of Monia Juni, Aeropuertos de León, Adrián Toribio, Hesnaer, our World Business Partner, and last, Lucas Sechet, Operational Safety, Aeropuertos Argentina 2000. Before we start with the presentation and welcome words, I wanted to share some points on how the webinar will be held. As you can see, we have simultaneous interpretation, and to enable it in the Zoom menu in the lower part of your screen, you can choose in the button of interpretation, there's an Earth globe. You can choose your channel of preference, Spanish or English. And in some cases, and in some Zoom version, you might hear both voices, the panelist and the interpreter, at the same time. So we suggest in this case that you choose the lower option, which says mute original audio. So in this way, you will only hear either Paul's voice and the interpretation of the panelist. In regard to the questions, as you can see, some people have already raised their hands. The chat will not be active, enabled. So the questions you have for the panelists, please send them to this email address you see on the screen, letting us know if it's possible, the person whom you're addressing the question to. Remember, the chat will not be enabled. The questions will be handled through this email address. Without any further ado, I thank Carlos Menendez for his presence today. He will give us a few words as President of the Operational Safety Committee. Thank you very much, Francisco. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Francisco. Before anything else, I hope you and your families are in good health. As Francisco was saying, I'm Carlos Menendez. Currently, I'm the Operational Safety Manager in Pacifico Group that operates 2 airports in Mexico. Additionally, Francisco mentioned I have the honor of being the President of the Operational Safety Committee of ACI-LAC. We've been working in different initiatives to the benefit of the member airports of the region. Like all interested parties, we're interested in operational safety. One of the points that is more and more relevant, more and more in the member airports, particularly in the Pacific airports, is how we do our work and maintenance and construction work with operational safety. So evidently, in most cases, it's inevitable that we must comply expansion and other objectives. We know 2019 pandemic has provided many problems to us, and we project recovery of the demand in the region will not happen before 2024, but GAP, like many other operators in the region, are committed in working in continuing construction work and expansion of airport works through different strategies that in some cases imply delaying some projects. Nonetheless, no matter the different activities we will develop, we consider it's very important to carry them out, keeping a balance between production and protection. Additionally, and with the 99-98 PANS airdrome of ACI document, we need to revise processes related with operational safety during works in progress. Finally, I would also like to tell you that this webinar must not only be for airport operators, since we know there are many other involved parties. So in this occasion, we have with us personnel of different organizations, including construction companies and supervision companies. Thanks to the support of the Safety Committee of AC World and ACI-LAC and the support of Francisco Medela, we have coordinated this webinar, and this will allow us to know a bit of what is being done in the world in operational safety during works in air operations at the airports. Without any further ado, I thank once again our panelists, and I give the floor to Francisco. Thank you for your assistance and attention. Thank you. Thank you very much, Carlos, for your introduction. Without any further ado, we give the floor to Monia Giuini, responsible of operational safety of Lyon airports.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I will introduce you and present to you our methods of construction works on movement area at Lyon airports. Can down the slide? Thank you. We know that our goal is to maintain safety. It's the most important for all of us. And we know that the vehicles, equipment, materials, and rubble during construction work constitute a significant danger for aircraft. The establishment and realization of work on the movement area of an airport can lead to a deterioration in operation condition and reveal dangerous situations. So in order to minimize the consequences of these operations on the operation of the airport, various measures and precautions should be taken too. So to build safety, it's the next slide. Thank you. To build safety, we identify different key steps. The first one is the preparatory phase, the realization of work, and taking into account technical rules that we can start to see on detail on the next slides. Preparatory phase and good practices. The first step is the coordination. Good coordination between organizations upstream of the work is necessary when work impacts the operation of the airport and the working methods of the air navigation service provider. This coordination facilitates the processing of the safety file by the supervisory authority. Coordination is based on notification, monitoring, and acceptance of the work by safety manager, also for routine maintenance operation, and the authority. Coordination between the airport operator and the air navigation service provider. The second step is the planning with phasing and schedule associated with the work must be clearly presented to the competent authority. Then, the safety study demonstrates the knowledge and control of the impact on safety. It must be conclusive on the acceptability or not of the identified risks with regard to the risk reduction measures proposed, and decisive on the implementation or not of the change in view of the conclusion on the safety study, including especially the field events of greatest concern. It describes the different phases during works and after works. The acceptance of the change by the authority is based on airport safety impact study, coordination with stakeholders, and the effective implementation of risk reduction measures. You can turn the slide. Thank you. Regarding management of changes, we can consider the planned work significantly reduce flight safety at the airport. The operator must put in place appropriate measures to minimize the risk identified. This approach must involve all the stakeholders concerned by this modification, with notification of change just for information, with sufficient notice for analysis. Safety impact assessment validated by safety manager first, and compliance file. And we have the work modifies the term of the certificate, the certification basis, or has an impact on one or more critical equipment at the airport. Here, the airport operator is prohibited from starting work without prior authorization from the authority. And at this moment, notification of change is for approval with sufficient notice for analysis. Safety impact assessment also validated first by safety manager and compliance file. At Lyon, we have to observe 2 months before, at least, to send notification to approval of the authority before to start anything. It's very, sometimes it's very complicated. And for the air navigation, it's at least 4 months before. We have also the aeronautical information to take care. At Lyon, we are the subject to AESA regulation, and we are the aeronautical data provider who creates or requests the creation of aeronautical information concerning the airport. Compliance with the coordination protocol must be rigorous to ensure all real-time accuracy, and particularly on the following case, the work affects the approach and landing edge instruments. The work modified the declared runway length and or distances. On the event of a total closure or a runway or taxiway, when the setting up a temporary offset threshold, the type of messages used, NOTAM, AIP, etc., must be consistent with the publication deadline, and then the ACI-LAC cycle must be respected. It's around 3 months. We also take care on movement of vehicles and personnel, and we implement different access control. The first one, access control for vehicle and personnel, to prevent, of course, any unauthorized entry to the airport platform. The access permits are to be anticipated and planned before work. We implement access to the work area, also traffic rules on the ground and communication. Staff are trained to conduct airside and receive permission, vehicle traffic rules on the apron and maneuvering area, communication between driver and air navigation service provider. Otherwise, they must be accompanied all the times by qualified personnel. And parking area and vehicle use, we have mapping. Mapping is developed to limit access to defined areas that are reported and marked. This was the first part regarding the preparation, and after the second step is the realization of work. And during this step, we start with the monitoring of work. The airport operator is responsible at Lyon Airport for the smooth running of the work, for which is responsible. We make ensure to regular inspection of the progress of work, check that the safety measure procedures and standards are respected, and the event of an incident regard degradation of infrastructure or equipment, we have to immediately report to the department concerned for the implementation of corrective measures and notify it to the authority. During realization of works, we are very concerned by debris and rubble management control. We set up specific equipment and infrastructure intended to limit the spread of fraud and define the pavement inspections procedure and ensure their implementation. So we have points of vigilance with passage of machinery, we regular cleaning of traffic lanes, frequent inspections, inspections before reopening. Vehicles carrying debris and rubble do not circulate on runway and taxiway without specific authorization. And any object that has fallen on the movement area is removed as soon as possible and before the passage of any aircraft. Concerning waste storage, compliance with safety measures, obstacle, influence of the platform, etc., and prevent the effect of aircraft damage. Inspection of the movement area. The airport operator is responsible for that, for carrying out inspection at a frequency appropriate to the airport, including and especially when they are made by third parties. Increase inspection, briefing of the agent in charge of inspections regarding the progress of the work. Updating aeronautical information concerning the air navigation system, the state of the movement area, the operation of facilities, diffusion according to locally established protocol. Thank you. So check-in before returning to service, in addition to the continuous monitoring during the execution of work, check the correct delivery of the installation, check compliance, inform the other operators concerned that the work is completed and compliant, ensure the updating of maps, plan, and documents following the works. And at the end, we have to feedback after work. Once the work is completed, provide feedback to preparation and realization phase, assessment of the coordination between the different actors to analyze the areas for improvement, evaluate the effectiveness of risk mitigation measures, analyze the events that would have occurred as a result of the work phase, as well as the action implemented. And concerning good practices, we have to take care, of course, about all technical rules. As restrictions related to the movement area, the airport operator is required to respect from the preparatory phase, aeronautical clearances, radio easements, obstacle object installation or equipment close to the movement area. Any objects that has fallen on the movement area is removed as soon as possible before the passage of any aircraft. Vehicles are reported, marked and provided with radio equipment or accompanied by vehicle marked and provided with radio equipment all the time. In the event of any change concerning the work near the runway, immediately inform the air navigation service so that the services can inform the pilots on approach or before takeoff. If possible, carry out this work outside of airports' operating hours or in a less busy time slot. Marking and signaling, the signaling of the work zone by way of marking and signage is an important point to consider when carrying out the work. Prohibition signs, barriers, lights in unusable. I think it's not the good slide at the screen. Yes. We should be at the 17 page. Sorry, number 17. Thank you. Perfect. Yes, it's my fault. It's the good slide. Thank you. So, work near the end of the runway. Check that no machine, material, or storage of rubber pierces the landing and takeoff gaps. Respect the marking and signage instruction. Update aeronautical information. During work near traffic lanes, strictly respect the regulatory distances. During work near air navigation aids, compliance with radio easements, meteorological equipment and visual aids. Evaluate the impact of the work on the proper functioning of these aids. And in the event of a temporary shifted threshold on runway reduction, stop or adapt visual aids to avoid any false indication. During low visibility condition, limit movement on the ground as much as possible. Clear sensitive and critical area of the ILS. Stop all construction works. Clear the maneuvering area of any personal, material, vehicles, or equipment related to the work, and do not carry out any work on the electrical circuit. Regarding marking and signaling, the signaling of the work zone by way of marking and signage is an important point to consider when carrying out the work. Prohibition signs, barrier, lights, and unusable areas at main intersections. Temporary marking, like glued or paint. A special case of a runway closed for a duration exceeding 1 hour, we have to use a luminous cross of Saint-André, unusable zone marks, NOTAMs, ATIS, air traffic control frequency information, switching off the radio guidance means, and lights out, except for the maintenance. It's the end of this presentation. I would like to thank you, and I will be glad to answer to your question if you have it at the end. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Monia, por la presentación. He visto que algunas personas han estado
Thank you,
levantando.
Monia, for the presentation. I've seen some people have raised their hands. I want to remind you that the questions will be held at the end of the presentations, and they must be sent to the address you see on the screen. Please let us know the person whom you're addressing the question to. Without any further ado, we give the floor to Adrián Toribio, SNAER. Go ahead, please. Hello to everyone. I would present operational safety during the maintenance work and construction work at in our airports. I will tell you how we do this in Spain. Well, The main objective of operational safety is to manage so that we can control risk at the airports when conditions are modified or altered because of work that is being done. We must distinguish between the different types of work that is being done at the airports, because depending on the type of work, managing operational safety can change significantly. In general, we distinguish between maintenance work and the other types of works. The first one, maintenance work, we understand maintenance work is the different operations and care, corrective aspects on the air side or that affect operational safety and that are necessary so that the facilities and infrastructures can continue working properly. Some examples of these types of work are with meteorology, measuring on the runways, taxiways or other areas, work that is done in unpaved areas. So in this type of maintenance work, we also we have work done by our own staff, and they know how to move around their airports. And there's also work done by third parties or outsourced companies to carry out work, and they don't know the airport very well. On the other hand, we have the other group of works, construction works, installations, repairs, in order to run infrastructure or adapt current infrastructure, and it's not considered maintenance. So in the works, we have major and minor works for depending on the volume of personnel and machinery involved and the schedules that they're carried out. The main document for operational safety during the works, we call it Surveillance Operational Safety Plan. This is the document that establishes the acceptable means for complying the requirements that must be guaranteed when we carry out work on the airside or that affects operational safety at the airports. The main demanded requirements and are contemplated in the Surveillance Operational Safety Plan are locating the works and how we access them, possible problems to operational safety, radio communications to be used, possible incidents that could happen during the work, the training to personnel that would be working at the airport, a series of KPI indicators, operational safety indicators to measure performance of the works with operational safety, and how we control external operators or possible outsourcing, how we ensure that we have proper follow-up of operational safety and requirements for persons responsible for all this follow-up. We will go over the main points. One of the most important is things that can affect operational safety in the maintenance group to test what are possible affected or issues. We do risk management, and we will define a series of measures and protection measures. The possible incidents are we need to remove obstacles on the runways or critical and sensitive areas, or we might have foreign elements. Possible problems also on the runways, or we must look into possible problems within meteorological areas or at the taxiways of the airlines, possible problems in fuel areas or maneuvers of aircraft during the scale times. We must also take measures to carry out works with adverse meteorological conditions or low visibility. We also revise whether the work can affect a specific facility. Taking into account these possible problems, we determine whether we need to do notification. This is how we handle operational safety during maintenance work and how we revise possible problems that they could cause. In the case of the works and how areas could be affected, it's different. We base ourselves on risk management to see if this risk has been revised previously, and the design of the project or the design phase of the project, and we take into account the works phase, and once it's the work is already finished. During risk management, we need to discuss this with experts to make sure that prevention protection measures contemplated in our risk management are proper and acceptable to everyone. Another aspect to take into account to manage possible problems during works is we need to be ready for changes. And if we need to have changes, we need to be authorized by our aeronautical authorities. Well, I think Monia mentioned this in a previous webinar, so I will not delve too long on this, so we go on to the next slide. Next point that I need to emphasize for operational safety is ensuring operational safety aspects. To ensure operational safety, we establish several mechanisms, procedures, responsibilities, and figures to watch over operational safety and for compliance of the requirements that are established. And for this, we establish two types of surveillance. One on site that is usually auto surveillance or surveillance from a third party. We understand auto surveillance that all people involved in the work have individual responsibilities, and they must make sure their work will not affect operational safety, and they've been trained for this previously. And surveillance from a third party, it's a company, outsourced company, where they monitor and surveil according to the measures we provided. And this is what we do on site. But on the other hand, we have global supervision, which is supervision around documents, and it's not done on site. Normally, it's done by the technical people in charge of aeronautical safety or responsible persons for operational safety. We will look into their responsibilities, and well, they look into modifications to the surveillance plan. They analyze and follow up on the indicators, and they look into possible incidents, and they look into possible nonconformities. In the case of maintenance works, the way to ensure operational safety will be through surveillance on site with auto surveillance. We have a checklist to make sure that we have followed all proper measures in every zone or area. And in regard to global supervision and maintenance work, the person in charge of operational safety is in charge of this, and people at the airports must do the global supervision. And additionally, we can have supervisions according to operational safety aspects. In the case of major works, ensuring operational safety is done differently. In this case, on site, we have auto surveillance done by each one of the persons that is working. Additionally, the supervision from the person in charge of aeronautical safety, who must follow up on operational safety by the outsourced company in charge of the works. We must also take into account elaborating the surveillance operational safety plan to establish a revision plan with a calendar of visits to the works and to test the aspects we must monitor or surveil in each area. Additionally, we also carry out surveillance by a third party. In this case, the third party is part in what South America we call interventors. In Spain, we call them technical assistances of work controls. We appoint an auditor who audits this work, and we also avail an inspection program for the work that will be done by this TASA institution. In regard to global supervision, they look into all documents, and all major works are carried out by TESA and TASA and responsible parties at the airport. And additionally, like with maintenance, there could be global supervision with operational safety at the airport. In the case of minor works, to ensure the quality, the surveillance is done on site. In this case, by trained staff in TESA. In general, it's fairly similar to major works, but the difference is that in this case, we don't usually have supervision with a third party. And if there is, it's normally from the airport and now not an external engineering company. We will also have global supervision. In this case, it's done by TESA and by the responsible person at the airport. And it's also possible that there are global supervisions and operational safety supervision of the process. In this slide, I explain the requirements of the responsible persons for operational safety and what are the responsibilities of each one of them. In the case of maintenance works, the main figures here are the airport operator with the external actors. This is a person that belongs to the airport who's assigned to follow up on the activities that the external person will do in the airport and to make sure all operational safety requirements are complied with. The other important figure in maintenance work is responsible for operational safety. It's a person that belongs to the external consultant, and they will make sure of operational safety aspects, and they will be involved in the communications aspects. And in case of the works, or the responsible persons and responsibilities are different. The responsible for operational safety in this case is TESA. It will be a technical person from the construction company previously approved by the director of the airport. He will have full authority on the personnel or staff. If there's an event, then he can stop work immediately to be able to be appointed technical person for operational safety. You must count with aeronautical experience. And once the work is being developed, he must be available at all times. And depending on the work that will be done, he must be every day at the airport. And the last of these important persons is the auditor, technical auditor. In this case, the auditor is part of the Directorate of Works, and he's approved in this case by IAP. This person must guarantee during the work's operational safety, ensuring compliance of the measures and established terms and the operational safety surveillance plan through inspections and follow-up. He can also paralyze work in case of serious non-compliance. He must count with aeronautical experience. He must be available 24/7. during works, and he must be present every day at the airport. Well, thank you. That's my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. It'll be a pleasure to respond to any questions you want to ask. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. As Adrian mentioned, the questions will be at the end. The Q&A session will be at the end. I've seen some persons have raised their hand. Please keep in mind to send your questions to this email address, and your questions will be answered at the end, not through the chat. Without any further ado, we have Lucas Echet's presentation from Aeropuertos Argentina 2000. Good morning to everyone. The idea of this presentation is to tell you about the experience we had when we repaved a runway and part of the movement area in an airport in Argentina. Aeropuertos 2000 is a concession company of airports that has 35 airports that under concession in all Argentina. One of these airports is the International Airport of Mosconi, General Mosconi, located in the city of Rivadavia. Rivadavia is a city that is in Patagonia, Argentina. It's a city that is relatively isolated, so you have an idea. The closest city, the important city that is closest to Comodoro Rivadavia is at 500 kilometers away, approximately. But it's a very important city for the petroleum development of the country. So this airport has the key role, a preponderant role in this city. After the year 2015-16, we already started to realize that the paved surfaces at the airport were deteriorating, and they were reaching the limit of their useful life. So back then, we thought we should repave the main runway at the airport, but in coordination with the different province and national authorities, they gave us as an objective that the airport should continue in operation. Well, since the city is so isolated, and thereby it's extremely important for the petroleum industry. Here you can see in this presentation, this slide here, that the airport counts with one single runway, approximately 2,800 meters in length. It counts with a taxiway system, runway A, parallel to the runway, Alpha and Charlie, that are parallel to the runway and connect with the apron. You can see it down below. The airport is a H24 operations airport. It operates 24 hours a day. The most common aircrafts are KVC airports, Boeing A320 or 327. There's about 10,000 annual movements and between 150 to 180,000 passengers per year. Well, so they set conditions. The authorities gave us conditions, so we started to work on planning for these. We did all the operational safety evaluations. We did all the proper coordinations with the different airlines during the forthcoming years, and we defined
organismos públicos que intervienen en comenzar durante los primeros días del año 2019 con los trabajos. Próximo slide, por favor. Ahí,
together with the aeronautical
trabajos que
here we
constaba
developed work stages, 7 stages actually. The first one included displacement of the threshold. It has a orientation of 2057. The threshold would be displaced by 750 meters, so we could work in the 07 runway, and then adjust the Alpha taxiway to be used as the runway. The idea to keep the airport in operation would be, meanwhile we were repaving the main runway, we could use the taxiway as a runway during the works. The main runway counts with 45 meters in its the width. The width is 40 meters. To be able to use this taxiway as a runway, the first thing we saw was that the friction of the surface was at the limit of what was acceptable. Thereby, in order to improve the operational standard, we decided to all the surface is concrete. So the first stage, we had to move the threshold back to adjust the length of the taxiway. This is what you can see on red here. The Bravo runway was penalized while the Charlie could be used. Then we started with the second part of readjusting the taxiway. Now Bravo could be used too. Once we finished the adaptation, adapting this taxiway, we started working on the apron for aircraft. We had the western and eastern sectors. Once we had readapted this apron, we started with the reconstruction work of the main runway, and we started to operate on the taxiway. Once the reconstruction works were finished, we started readaptation work, readjustment work. We had to change the visual science of the old runway, and then the last stage was adaptation, readjustment, and return things back to normal, to previous conditions, to move back the visual aids, and so this work took approximately 11 months, and we started working in the first days of January to end at the end of December. Duration 11 months, January to December. We took additional measures here. We issued operational safety bulletins. We used the examples of the airport of Montevideo, Uruguay, and we adapted their work methodology. And we started to produce these bulletins or documentations, and we sent them to the airlines. In the first stage, this is what you see here, the first bulletin. There you can see on the pinkish area where the areas are penalized at the airport. And the objective of this bulletin is to inform the pilots and airlines in a simple and quick manner how the movement area of the airport is configured. The truth is, we found this to be a very useful tool, and the airlines received it with open arms since they liked this way of work. And it's very useful for the pilots since immediately they can understand how the airport is configured. What you see here is stage one. As I said, about half of the Alpha runway was penalized, and we started using 07 taxiway. You can see here in white, after the threshold 07. This is a security area. We left as a buffer between the aircraft and the work area. In the second stage, we started to work on the second half of the Alpha runway, enabling only Charlie runway so airlines could land. In the second stage, we enabled Bravo runway so it could be used together with the runway. You see a part in red, which is the security area between the beginning of threshold 07, runway 25. We had to mark it red because some events we had, I will mention later on. In this slide, in this stage, you can see we started to have a sort of overlapping of work. The original idea was that all works that would be carried out would not affect more than one subsystem of the movement area of the airport. So we had to attack one part of the runway, taxiway, and then go to the apron in two sectors. And then once we finished with the apron, involved the runway. But the reality is that we could not comply with the timeframes for different motives. Well, the stages overlapped with each other, and meanwhile, we were working on the runway. We were also working on the apron. Here, in this stage, we continued working in the taxiway. We had attacked work in the other half of the apron, always being careful with security in the operation, was in operation always. Here, in this fifth stage, we started with repaving of the runway, and we started to use as a runway the parallel taxiway. We emphasized here a lot the runway 0725 that was closed. In this bulletin, we can see the, well, very briefly, you can see what is the condition, operational conditions of the airport in this bulletin. Even this is information, although it's not official, it's produced by the airdrome operator in Argentina. The official information is done by civil aviation. We understood that this tool was very useful, though, to better inform the pilots, so the pilots would have more information about the movement areas, and so we could prevent approximations to runways that were closed or areas where aircraft should not come close to work areas. After this, in stage 6, readaptation or readjustment of the runway, we started to produce new visual aids on runway 725. We always kept the runway closed. Besides the NOTAMs, we included the white crosses for closing the runway. We also included them to prevent confusions and that the aircraft would not come close to a closed runway. Now, in this last stage, runway 07 was enabled totally. There was a small change with the original. And we had Charlie taxiway enabled. Meanwhile, we were working in the readaptation of the parallel runway that we were using as a runway. We were readapting it so it could be used as a runway. We had to adapt the lighting for the visual aids and so forth. All this work was carried out. Meanwhile, the new 0725 runway was open. You can see some details on the work, where, as you can see, we had to mark the old taxiway, Alpha taxiway that we used it as a runway to use white crosses to prevent confusions. Well, this is a bit all the work that we did during the repavement. This, well, we had some problems. We had two operational safety issues or problems. One was serious, major, and the other one not so much. First thing that happened, once we displaced threshold 07, we shortened the runway. We started to see that aircraft, instead of going all the way to threshold 07 or the end of the runway, they took off, they landed in the safety area, and they broke all the asphalt in the runway. You can see in the images how they broke this asphalt here. The aircraft stepped on it. This happened during the first 2 or 3 days of operation when we displaced the threshold. So we met with the airlines that operate at the airport, and they were worried too for this situation. So working together, we decided to modify the bulletin a bit. You can see this part in red down below, where we indicated to the pilots this sector was not available, even though there was no work there. It was not enabled for use. So that's the way we found to mitigate this problem. Also, the airlines reinforced their communications with the pilots a lot. And after the 4th, 5th day, we did not have any more of this type of situations. This was a good measure we found to mitigate these events that were happening. As I was saying, during the 5th stage of the operation, we were working in repaving the runway, and at the same time we were working in the apron, the safety communication pathways between the different runways were being used for the works. And in August 8, 2019, we had a runway incursion. A work vehicle crossed from runway Charlie from the works sector to the repavement area of the platform, right at the moment when a Embraer was taking off. The event was categorized by the Supervision Board as a Class A incursion, which is the most serious one or more relevant of all. Well, we had to go back to the work methodology. We had to reinforce communication with the work personnel. We had to reinforce communications with the tower. We had to raise awareness with the work personnel or staff at the airport. It's not just a common work area, just one more area of work. So we had to move staff from the corporative headquarters to reinforce all these measures because of this important situation. As you can see on the photograph down on the right, the operation areas was illegal for staff and work vehicles, but this vehicle went around all these obstacles, and they crossed just when an airplane was about to take off, the airplane came very close to hit the vehicle. The vehicle got in touch with the tower. They misinterpreted the message of the tower. They understood they could cross, and they were told they should wait, but the vehicle should not have been there, and the tower should have told them not to cross. But this happened, and we were fortunate, and there were no serious consequences. This is a bit the experience I wanted to mention. And last, what I wanted to mention, learn lessons from this work or this serious event. Always, we need to improve training on our staff, not, devote as much time as possible to training personnel. We must understand that many people that work at the airports are not used to work at airports, and it's not a normal work area. It's very
como son los aviones que desarrollan una alta energía a la hora, al momento del despegue y del aterrizaje, cosa que es una situación muy, muy compleja. Generar conciencia situacional a la hora de trabajar en el aeropuerto. Después lo otro que les quería destacar, que aprendimos, es la planificación. Por más que cueste, hay que tratar de respetar la planificación. Si bien la planificación original de la obra no incluía subsistemas del área de movimiento simultáneos, por cuestiones para cumplir con la fecha final, se permitieron la superposición de etapas.
To comply with the final date,
las etapas, lo cual
final dates, the stages overlap with each other. So we had to work simultaneously in two sectors, and in the middle we had the aircraft operations. So together with the development of the high energy that airlines displace when they take off for land. So I think planning for the works is essential. And as much as possible, we should prevent these types of situations when there's
en un lado y en el medio
works being done in one sector, and in the middle we have the aircraft operations. And last, we need to integrate the airport operator during the planning process. This is very important. We work a lot with the airport operator and with the other stakeholders when we do the planning aspects, even though we had this event or this serious event. Well, we need to prevent these types of serious situations. These were the problems we had basically, and in general terms, we worked fairly well. And working with all stakeholders facilitated our work and this work methodology, basically. Well, this is all on my behalf. I'm open to answer your questions or for your observations. Thank you, Lucas, for your presentation. As I said before, now briefly, we will go into Q&A, questions and answers session. For this, please send your questions to the email.
Vamos a leer brevemente alguna de ellas porque ya estamos contra el tiempo.
Because we are against time. I have one
Cárdenas
from
de
Alejandro
que va
Cárdenas
dirigida
of
a
GAP.
Adrián Toribio. No sé si estás por ahí, Adrián.
Sí, aquí estoy.
Comenta que bajo tu experiencia de TESA y TASA, dependiendo de la complejidad de las obras, entiendo que se asignan el número de estas personas, el TESA y TASA. ¿Cuál es su experiencia en asignar más de un TESA y o TASA? ¿Qué tal difícil es encontrar de obra que esté
How
trabajando?
difficult is it to find work professionals that work for construction
lo más
companies
habitual
due to the complexity of the works? Well, what's more normal
en obras
is that
de gran envergadura en las que
TESA or
hay veces
TASA
que,
carry out the work
debido al poco
unless
plazo que se tiene,
there's very
trabajan en varios
big
campos o varias
construction
zonas del
work,
aeropuerto de manera simultánea. Entonces
and
no es posible que una sola
or
persona
there's
las
work being
controle.
done simultaneously in different parts of the airport, or there's work 24 hours a day. In this case, we appoint
y a otro
a
suplente,
head
de
TESA
manera
or TASA,
que es el
and
responsable máximo de esa figura y el resto pues que le apoyan o asumen esa función en su ausencia. Eso en cuanto al número.
assistant responsible.
Lo
In
fácil
regard to
en este tipo de profesionales.
how difficult it is to find these types of professionals in the labor market, well, generally, this profile is more focused in around aeronautical experts, engineering areas, airport services, and how many aeronautical engineers or others in construction companies is very low. It's not easy to find these profiles. So we do have some problems around this area, especially because in the manner the requirements of the aeronautical authorities in Spain have increased by 2000. In 2010, it was only a requirement to have a training or experience. Now it's much more difficult to find these professionals. Thank you, Adrián. Then I have another question from Arturo Luján, airport inspector of the airdromes, Peruvian authorities. They tell us about your experience with dust and what's your experience with dust, so wind will not disperse this and the transfer FDOD or dust. Adrián, if you like, you can start. Or well, it's a habitual, normal problem, dust generation at the works, especially in unpaved roads or areas. And usually we implement periodic irrigation with water on these unpaved surfaces so we don't generate dust. This is the measure that we have used the most in my experience. Yes, similarly, well, we irrigate these areas, especially when there's a lot of wind. Also, in regard to vehicles that circulate, the idea is to prevent the operation movements of the airport. So we plan work with this point of view. Thank you. Monia, would you like to add something, Monia? Monia, would you like to add something?
Can you hear me? Okay. Now, just one thing. In Lyon, we do not have some problem regarding the rain on the surfaces. So I don't have anything to complete on the subject regarding Adrian or Lucas propose.
Gracias. Una última pregunta ya para terminar. Esta va dirigida
One question before we finish. It's for Lucas from Omar Esnaer, who is asking about the experience you mentioned of enabling the taxiway, the parallel taxiway. Could you adapt this runway totally so it could be used 100% as a normal runway? Could you adapt all normative aspects like slopes, resistance, visual aids, or did you need an acceptance document from competent authorities, or did they request aeronautical study for you to enable this work? We carried out all the proper aeronautical studies, not only for this taxiway, but in general for the work. Specifically, in this runway, we adjusted all visual aids, signs, paint, and lights. We modified all aids that the main runway had. Besides security, the security area was limited by 75 meters on each side. We did not use 140 width that we normally have. The rest was all adapted or adjusted perfectly. We had an operational safety study that backed us with this. Thank you, Lucas. A question for Adrian this time by Miguel Amnesquita from Mexico. He's asking, how do you handle changes to operational safety on the needs that are presented day to day on the works? Even though there is planning, the work needs can change during the execution of the works. How do you manage this?
¿Sí me escucháis?
Sí.
Vale.
Perfecto.
Nada, como os decía, el plan de vigilancia de seguridad operacional es un documento global, ¿no? Que engloba todas las obras, pero que a lo mejor no baja al detalle del día a día. Para esto sí que tenemos un documento que lo llamamos un permiso de trabajo en las obras de mayor envergadura, que pues, bueno, engloba solo ciertas zonas, ciertas actuaciones de una duración más bien corta, y sí que incluye todas las medidas mitigadoras, señalización, detalle de rutas de acceso, etcétera. Y bueno, pues es sobre todo en estos permisos de trabajo.
For this, we have a document, we have a work and articulates possible changes and includes mitigation measures in this work permit, and if the conditions are...
Permiso de trabajo. Llegado el caso, se modificaría también el plan de vigilancia de seguridad operacional, puesto que bueno, pues se considera un documento vivo y actualizable a lo largo de toda la obra, pero en general es a través de los permisos de trabajo como se genera un poco y se lleva el seguimiento del día a día.
Gracias, Adrián. Nos hemos quedado ya sin tiempo para más preguntas. Por favor, recuerden, si tienen alguna pregunta más para alguno de los panelistas, pueden enviarla a la dirección info@acilac.aero y se las estaremos compartiendo. Sin más, agradecer a nuestros panelistas por el tiempo para preparar las presentaciones y compartir su experiencia. Y sin más, como en todos los webinars, estaremos compartiendo las diapositivas, al igual que la grabación en YouTube en las próximas horas. Sin más, muchísimas gracias a todos y que tengan un feliz día, y si no nos comunicamos antes, pues que tengan unas felices fiestas.
Muchas gracias. Saludos a todos.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Feliz Navidad a todos.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos. Feliz Navidad.